And we just want to welcome everyone, those of you that are here live to our Friday night Bible study, also those of you that are joining us on Zoom. And we certainly also want to welcome those that will be seeing this video on our YouTube channel come Tuesday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, we are excited to be sharing this information with you. We're going to cover part 4 of the book of Exodus, one of the most important books in the whole Tanakh, which is the books from Genesis to Malachi. Very important book, the book of deliverance, the book of building a nation. And so we have a lot of information we've got to cover today. Hopefully we can get it all in. I shoot to try to get everything done within about an hour. So we're going to do the best we can on that today. So we're going to go ahead and pray, get right into this lesson. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshanu. B'mitzvotah v'tzivanu la'asuk b'divri Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with your commandments and command us to engross ourselves in the words of your Torah. And we count it an honor and a privilege to do just that. And so with that said, we're going to go ahead and share our screen and get right into this lesson today. So you should be seeing my screen now. Everything is good. All right, so we're in the book of Exodus, part 4. Pharaoh, let my people go. Let my people go. Let's get into this. Today's lesson will cover one of the most significant days in the life of the Hebrews, Elohim's chosen people. It is the day they were delivered from Egypt. They officially became a nation. However, this day would not have been possible without the blood of the Passover lamb. It is the Passover that gave the children of Israel their freedom, and it is the Passover that brought Pharaoh and Egypt to their knees. Yeshua, our Passover. This monumental event was pointing to a day when Yeshua HaMashiach, the Lamb of Elohim, would take away the sins of the world and bring deliverance to all who would accept him. So it's critical that we keep that in mind as we're dealing with this today. There is no freedom without Yeshua HaMashiach. There is no life apart from him. Any faith or belief that does not include Yeshua and acknowledge his blood sacrifice is wrong and should be avoided. This deliverance from Egypt that we will learn about today is but a shadow of the deliverance that Yeshua HaMashiach will bring to the world of those who put their trust in him. And with that said, let's continue our study of the book of Exodus, part 4. We're in chapter 11. And Yahweh said to Moshe, I am bringing yet one more plague on Pharaoh and on Mitzrayim. After that, he is going to let you go out from here. When he lets you go, he shall drive you out from here altogether. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor, and every woman from her neighbor, objects of silver and objects of gold. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites. And the man Moshe was very great in the land of Mitzrayim, in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and in the eyes of the people. And Moshe said, Thus says Yahweh, about midnight, I am going out into the midst of Mitzrayim, and all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of a female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of cattle. And there should be a great cry throughout all the land of Mitzrayim, such as has never been or ever shall be. But against any of the children of Israel, no dog shall move his tongue against man or against beast, so that you know that Yahweh makes distinction between Mitzrayim and Israel. Now, this distinction, you got to understand, Mitzrayim or Egypt is a type of the world. And Israel, they are his people, his chosen, his selected group of people here. And so what's happening here, and you've seen it in previous lessons, The Most High has made a distinct difference between both camps. As you had the 10 plagues that were judging the various gods of Egypt, the plagues were coming against the children of Egypt. It did not touch ever the children of Israel. The darkness, none of the other plagues, the frogs, the lice, the flies, none of that touched them, because the Most High makes a difference between his people and all other people. And so I just want to point out that the children of Israel, they are a select people group. They're not like other nations. They're not like other people. They are the ones that he chose because he had a relationship with Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are his friends. They are the patriarchs that started this nation. And so you got to understand that they are a set apart group. They are chosen and a select group above all other people groups on the planet. And so I really want to drill that point home, that you just don't see that everybody on the earth is the same, because everybody on earth is not the same. Abraham was Yahweh's friend. And the descendants of Abraham are a special chosen people because of the relationship that Yahweh had with Abraham. And so in this situation, it says here that Yahweh makes distinction between Mitzrayim and Israel. And all these servants of yours shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, you and all the people at your feet. And after that, I shall go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great displeasure. But Yahweh said to Moshe, Pharaoh is not going to listen to you in order to multiply my wonders in the land of Israel. And Moshe and Aharon did all these wonders before Pharaoh. However, Yahweh strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Chapter 12. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Israel, saying, this new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this new moon, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings. According to each man's need, you make your account for the lamb. Let the lamb be perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. So what is this lamb, this perfect lamb? What is it type in the shadow of? Yeshua HaMashiach, because he is the Lamb of Elohim that takes away the sin of the world. He is the Passover lamb. So all these things they're going through right now is just a type and a shadow of what was to come when Yeshua was fulfilling his earthly ministry. Verse 5 again. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats. He shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slay it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the house where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire. With unleavened bread and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boil it at all with water, but roast in fire his head with his legs and his inward parts. And do not leave it until the morning, and what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Pesach of Yahweh. And I shall pass through the land of Mizraim on that night, and shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mizraim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mizraim I shall execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you. And let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Israel. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your house. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th day, that being shall be cut off from Israel. So what's the significance of the leaven? Leaven is a type of sin. Leaven represents sin in Israel. And so he is saying to eliminate all leaven from your house because Yeshua is the bread of life. And so this bread that they're making with this unleavened bread, it represents Yeshua, for he is a sinless sacrifice. And so all of these events that they're doing right now is literally pointing to the event when Yeshua gives up his life on Calvary. He is the bread of life. He's unleavened. He is sinless. And so for 7 days, he's requiring them to eat this unleavened bread. And on the first day is a set apart gathering. And on the 7th day, you have a set apart gathering. No work at all is done on them. Only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. And you shall guard the festival of Matzah. For on this same day, I brought your divisions out of the land of Israel. And you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. So it's interesting when you fast forward to Yeshua, he was literally dying on the stake approximately the same time that they're eating this matzah during this time they get ready to come out. So as they were coming out, preparing this matzah, putting this blood on the doorposts, they were preparing themselves to be free, to be delivered from their bondage. So likewise, Yeshua was on the stake, preparing to shed his blood to make us to believe in him and his finished work to be able to be free from our bondage to sin. So this all that's going through in Egypt right now was simply a type and a shadow of an even greater work to come through Yeshua HaMashiach. In the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon, in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new moon in the evening. For 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native of the land. He's making great emphasis on the importance of honoring this unleavened bread. Do not eat that which is leavened. In all your dwellings you are to eat unleavened bread. And Moshe called for the elders of Israel and said to them, go out and take lambs for yourselves according to your clans, and slay the Pesach. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. So what is this a type of? They're putting the blood on the door of their homes. And we are eventually to apply the blood of Yeshua to the door of our hearts, right? So this is what this is a type and a shadow of. When his blood is applied to our lives, then the death angel, because the death angel is going to visit every person on the planet that's ever lived. When we have been covered in this blood, then a death angel will pass over us, and we will be spared the punishment that every person deserves, because every man has sinned. All have sinned and come short of the glory of Elohim. But because of the blood of Yeshua, he now is able to allow the death angel to pass over us. So all of this that's going on again in Egypt is but a type and a shadow of what Yeshua would do on Calvary. Again, verse 22. And strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin, and you, none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. And Yahweh shall pass on to smite the Mizrites, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, and Yahweh shall pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. So it's checking out every door. But they got to this door and it's seeing the blood on the doorpost and say, okay, I can't go in here. So it's going to keep on moving, waiting for a door he can find that has no blood on it. Because when you don't see the blood, death is coming. Yeshua, our Passover. I must restate this crucial point. The Passover deliverance is a shadow of the deliverance Yeshua provided when he died on Calvary. He is the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. There's a reason why they called him that, because it was looking forward to the day that he was going to pay the price for every man born of woman who's ever lived. And those who believe in that finished work will be free from the death that was destined to come to every man. Some who follow the Torah and some in other faiths do not believe that Elohim would send his son to die on behalf of human beings. However, this plan of salvation is revealed throughout Scripture, beginning in Genesis 3:15. And I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, speaking of the devil, and you shall crush his heel, Satan. In other words, you're going to be on the receiving end of that combat boot coming up against your head. And the boot's going to be on the foot of Yeshua HaMashiach. This is the first prophecy of Yeshua coming against the devil and defeating him because of what he did with Adam and Eve. This was the very first prophecy that was ever given. And all of the other prophecies are a spinoff from this very one. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. And it shall be, when you come to the land which Yahweh gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. You're going to maintain this Passover every year, in other words, okay? And it shall be, when your children say to you, what does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, it is the Pesach, slaughtering of Yahweh, who passed over the house of the children of Israel in Mizraim, when he smote the Mizrahites and delivered our households. And the people bowed their heads and did obeisance. And the children of Israel went away and did so. As Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. And it came to be at midnight that Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Mizraim. You can see the lights going from street to street, from house to house, looking for a home that does not have the blood. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Mizrahites. And there was a great cry in Mizraim, for there was not a house, for there was not a dead one. Then he called for Moshe and Aaron by night and said, arise, go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and go. Then you shall bless me too. And the Mizrahites were strong on the people to hasten to send them away out of the land. For they said, we are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe. And they had asked from the Mizrahites objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of Mizrahites. So they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mizrahites. After working 430 years in Egypt, they were able to come out with great abundance and great wealth. And trust me, we spent over 400 years in slavery here in this country, and they've been trying to get reparations for decades. But when everything is said and done, there will be a wealth transfer, because the assignment of the wicked is to work and to labor and to heap up riches and wealth that they may have to transfer to those who are in right standing with the Most High. So I don't worry about reparations, because the Most High is going to make certain that we get what we got coming. And the children of Israel set out from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. So we got to figure it's got to be close to 2 million or more people that are coming out of Egypt at this time. And a mixed multitude went up from them too, also flocks and herds and very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Mizraim, for it was not leavened, since they were driven out of Mizraim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. The sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Mizraim was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of the 430 years, on that same day it came to be that all the division of Yahweh went out from the land of Mizraim. It is at night to be observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Mizraim. This is that night of watches unto Yahweh for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And Yahweh said to Moshe and Aharon, this is the law of the Pesach. No son of a stranger is to eat of it, but any servant a man has brought for silver, when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. A sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is eaten in one house, and you are not to take any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. So these rules, these laws of the Pesach, these laws of the Passover, how the animals to be treated, is extremely significant because notice here, and I put this in red because I wanted this to stand out, nor are you to break any bone of it. This verse of scripture right here is looking forward to the time when Rome was going to be the great power in the world. And they're going to be the ones that's going to be over the children of Israel at the time that Yeshua comes. And it just so happened that at that time, when Rome was in power, the method of capital punishment was to be crucified. And when they crucified people, they would always break the leg bones of the people that were on the cross or on the stake. Because what they would do, they would lift themselves up with their legs to take oxygen in so they could breathe. So they would have their hands up and they would stand on their legs and lift up and suck in oxygen. It would be a lot of pain, but that's the only way they could breathe. And so when they broke the legs, they could no longer lift themselves up and they would end up suffocating. That's what they would do. And so the Most High, he knew that that was going to be the time when his son was on the earth and what they was going to do. So he wanted to institute immediately, you will not break my son's bones. So he made it a law that when you're eating the Passover lamb, do not break a bone. Do not, you know how some people, when they eat certain meats, they might break the bone and eat the marrow. But he's telling them, don't break any of the bones of the Passover lamb. Don't do it because it is a symbol of what's going to go on with my son, Yeshua HaMashiach. And so that's why he separated them out and made this a law. Do not break the bone. All the congregation of Israel are to perform it. And when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Pesach to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised. So why is this circumcision so important? Again, this is a type in the shadow. The circumcision represents a cutting away of the flesh, and it symbolized being in covenant with the Most High Elohim. It started with Abraham, and it's carried throughout the history with the children of Israel. What it represents is a cutting away of the stoniness of your heart. And so basically what he's saying here is let the males be circumcised, and then after that, they can participate in this Passover experience. And so that's looking forward to those individuals who want to participate in a proper fellowship with Yahweh. They must have their hearts circumcised. They must remove the stoniness of their heart, and they must allow the word to penetrate and to transform them. That's what this is looking forward to. All right. Let all his males be circumcised. Verse 48. And then let him come near and perform it, and he shall be as a native of the land. But let no uncircumcised eat of it. In other words, there's not going to be anybody that's going to be in fellowship with the Most High who has not circumcised his heart and has received his word. This is a prerequisite. You must allow the word to transform you. You must accept the finished work of Yeshua in order for you to be a part of his family. There's no one that's going to be in fellowship with the Most High trying to come in a different way. You've got to come in through the methods in which he's made available. You try to come in a different way, you're going to say, I never knew you. You that work iniquity, you that work lawlessness, okay? Read that again. and then let him come near and perform it, and he shall be as a native of the land. But let no uncircumcised eat of it. There is one Torah, one teaching and instruction for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. So it doesn't matter if you were an Israelite or if you were someone who chose to want to follow the Israelite way. You must follow the Torah. You must follow Yahweh's teaching and instruction. And all the children of Israel did as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. And it came to be on that same day that Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of the land of Israel according to their divisions. Chapter 13. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, set apart to me all the firstborn, the one opening the womb among the children of Israel, among man and among beasts, it is mine. So now I want to talk about this firstborn, because this is very symbolic also. Israel is considered Yahweh's firstborn. And there's an issue with the firstborn, which is why he's going to talk about the redemption of the firstborn. Who was the firstborn son of the Most High? Well, it was Adam. And what did Adam do? He fell. He fell from grace, right? Who was the first among his angels? Satan. And what did he do? He fell. So there's a pattern among the firstborn. And so the Most High chose the firstborn in Egypt. When they were in Egypt, he said the firstborn is going to be the one that's going to die, because his firstborn, he deserves death, because it's been a pattern that the firstborn has always fallen short of the glory. And so he's going to say some things here about how to redeem the firstborn. So let's continue. I just want to give you that little tidbit so you can kind of understand what's taking place here. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, set apart to me all the firstborn, the one opening the womb among the children of Israel, among man and among beasts, it is mine. And Moshe said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Mizraim, out of the house of slavery. For by strength of hand, Yahweh brought you out of this place, and whatever is leavened shall not be eaten. Today you are going out in the new moon Abib, and it shall be when Yahweh bring you into the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you should keep this service in this new moon. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day is a festival to Yahweh. It's interesting how he keeps reiterating this. Anytime that something is being repeated, it is because it is of urgent importance. He wants them to understand this Passover is a critical feast. It is a critical moedim. It is a critical appointment, because it is pointing to a very special event. And I've talked about it already, but I want to keep reiterating it. The time when Yeshua is going to come on this earth and shed his blood for the deliverance of sin for all those who believe. Verse 7. Unleavened bread is to be eaten the 7 days, and whatever is leavened is not to be seen with you. And leaven is not to be seen with you within all your borders. Nothing that pertains to sin is to be seen in your borders, in other words. And you shall inform your son in that day, saying, it is because of what Yahweh did for me when I came up from Mizraim. And it shall be as a sign to you on your hand and as a reminder between your eyes that the Torah of Yahweh is to be in your mouth. For the strong hand Yahweh has brought you out of Mizraim. And you shall guard this law at its appointed time from year to year. And it shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your father, and gives it to you, that you shall give over to Yahweh everyone opening the womb, and every firstborn that comes from your livestock. The males belong to Yahweh. But every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with a lamb. And if you do not ransom it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn of man among your sons you are to ransom. So this donkey, this jackass, if you will, is an animal that he considers not to be something special, but it represents something. It represents the center of the world, right? It represents the center in Egypt. And so if you want to, he's basically saying if you want to ransom it, then you got to, deliver something else of value for it. And if you don't want to ransom it, then you're going to break his neck because it is of no value to me, right? Just like when we went through Egypt, when I saw the Egyptians, they were of no value to me. Therefore, each one of the firstborn in the camp, they had to die. And so basically, this donkey is a reminder of what had to happen to the children of the Egyptians. Their firstborn had to die. And so this ceremony every year is a reminder that there is a difference between that which is clean and that which is unclean. And it shall be when your son asks you in a time to come, saying, what is this? Then you shall say to him, by strength of hand, Yahweh brought us out of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. And it came to be when Pharaoh was too hardened to let us go, that what? Yahweh killed every firstborn in the land of Mizraim, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beasts. And so again, that's where that donkey comes in. It's just a reminder that he did have death occurring, but he spared you all. Therefore, I am slaughtering to Yahweh every male that opens the womb, but every firstborn of my sons I ransom, I redeem them. So there's death occurring, but there's opportunity for redemption to occur for the firstborn of his children. That's where he's making a difference. Hopefully you're following that. And it shall be a sign on your hand as frontlets between your eyes, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought us out of Mizraim. And it came to be, when Pharaoh had let the people go, the Elohim did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, though that was near, for Elohim said, let the people regret when they see fighting and return to Mizraim. So Elohim led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Sea of Reeds. And the children of Israel went up in fives from the land of Mizraim. And Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for he certainly made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring my bones up from here with you. This is interesting because this was a prophecy that Joseph gave 400 years in advance, when he was dying. 400 years in advance, he said, the Most High is going to visit you. They're going to take you out of Egypt. We're going to take you to your own land. And when you go, take my bones with you. So he's able to look 400 years in the future to make that request of them and to remind them of his bones. But we as a people group, we can't look into the next generation. I used to sell life insurance, and I tell you, our people are not forward thinking. They only want what they can get in their own lifetime. We talk to a lot of men sometimes. I would say, what are you preparing to leave for your wife or for your children if something should happen to you? And they would say things like, I'm not leaving them nothing. Why am I going to leave them, a life insurance policy if I die? And then she's going to go get married to somebody else and they're going to be living off my money. What about your wife? What about your children that you made a family with? But they're not forward thinking. They say, if I can't benefit from it, I have no interest in it, is what they say. And that is foolishness, because other people groups, they make preparation for their families. And oftentimes you got people that have started great businesses because of the inheritance that they've received from their father or for their grandfather. So that's how the Most High thinks. And that's how the children of Israel was trained to think. But unfortunately, that has not yet reached enough of our people here in the United States. And they departed from Sukkot and came to Etham at the edge of the wilderness. And Yahweh went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. The column of cloud did not cease by day, nor the column of fire by night before the people. Chapter 14. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pi Hiroth, between Migdal and the sea, opposite Baal and Sesphon, camped before it by the sea. For Pharaoh shall say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has closed them in. And I shall strengthen the heart of Pharaoh, and he shall pursue them. But I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh, and over all his army, and the Mizrahites shall know that I am Yahweh. And they did so. So the Most High has brought them right to the edge of the water. There's nowhere else they can go, right? And it was reported to the sovereign of Mitzrayim that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this? Why have we let Israel go from serving us? So he made his chariot ready and took his people with him. And he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Mizraim with officer over all of them. And Yahweh strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim. And he pursued the children of Israel, but the children of Israel went out defiantly. And the Mizrahites pursued them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth, before Baal Sesphon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes and saw the Mizrahites coming up after them, and they were greatly afraid. So the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh. And they said to Moshe, did you take us away to die in the wilderness because there are no burial sites in Mizraim? What is this you have done to us to bring us up out of Mizraim? And the murmurs are restarting. Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Mizraim, saying, leave us alone and let us serve the Mizrahites? I'm sure that's what you wanted. For it would have been better for us to serve the Mizrahites than to die in the wilderness. When Moshe said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the deliverance of Yahweh, which he does for you today. For the Mizrahites whom you see today, you are never, never to see again. Yahweh does fight for you, and you keep silent. And Yahweh said to Moshe, why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Israel and let them go forward. And you, lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and let the children of Israel go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I am strengthening the heart of the Mizrahites, and they shall follow them, and I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Mizrahites shall know that I am Yahweh, when I am esteemed through Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. And the messenger of Elohim, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And a column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them, and came between the camp of the Mizrahites and the camp of Israel. It was a cloud in the darkness, and it gave light by night, and the one did not come near the other all the night. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. Awesome sight, boy. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground. How many know that took some faith? And the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. And the Mizrahites pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea. Can you say not smart? Okay. You know, you've had 10 plagues, Egyptians, come against you, up to and including your firstborn being killed. And yet and still you saw fit to go in the midst of a water that's being divided on both sides. You see these people going across on dry land. You're witnessing something you've never seen before in your life. And yet it says, and the Mizrahites pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea. And all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. And it came to be in the morning watch that Yahweh looked down upon the army of the Mizrahites through the column of fire and cloud, And he brought the army of the Mizrahites into confusion. And he took off their chariot wheels. You can see it, this joke, he's about to fall out of his chariot. And he took off their chariot wheels, so he drove them with difficulty. And the Mizrahites said, let us flee from the face of Israel. But Yahweh fights for them against the Mizrahites. Too late for that now. Right. And Yahweh said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the sea, and let the waters come back upon the Mizrahites, on their chariots and on their horsemen. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its usual flow at the break of day, with the Mizrahites fleeing into it. Thus Yahweh overthrew the Mizrahites in the midst of the sea. Not a good sight, brothers. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, and not even one was left of them. So not only have they got their deliverance, but they have also destroyed their enemy. And so they don't have to have an army to worry about. I mean, this is a powerful, powerful testimony that the Most High has given the children of Israel. And the children of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hands of the Mizrahites. And Israel saw the Mizrahites dead on the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which Yahweh had done in Mizraim. And the people feared Yahweh and believed Yahweh and his servant Moshe. This is powerful. We're going to close out with Hebrews 11. This is Hebrews 11. This is what we call the Hall of Faith. It gives an account of the powerful faith moves that Yahweh was able to do through his people. And it's really fitting because what we have just got through witnessing is the creation of a nation. You know, they went into Egypt 70 souls, and they're coming out millions strong now after 430 years of slavery. But this is a culmination of a series of promises and a series of events that many men and women of faith was able to accomplish over the centuries to get them to this day. And so we're going to read about some of these accounts in Hebrews 11, starting at verse 1. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it, the elders obtained a good report. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of Elohim. So the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith, Abel offered unto Elohim a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, Elohim testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaks. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because Elohim had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased Elohim. It's amazing. This man's walk was so powerful with Elohim. They were just, walking, in the cool of the day one day, just kicking it, having a conversation. Enoch, he's on the earth, just doing his normal thing, hanging out with the Most High. And all of a sudden, it got so good to the Most High. He said, man, just come on up here. Just come on up here. And next thing you know, he's literally in heaven, translated, did not see death because his relationship with the Most High was so great. Let's read that verse 5 again. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death and was not found. People were looking for him. They said, man, where's Enoch? Enoch, gone. Because Elohim had translated him. For before this translation, he had this testimony that he pleased Elohim. That's the testimony I want him to have of me. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that comes to Elohim must first believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So is there something that you're believing the Most High for? First thing you need to have, there's 2 rules he just gave us there. The first thing you must do is believe that he exists. There's so-called atheists that say there is no God. Well, that's foolishness, because it took something greater than yourself to get you here, right? All this plant life, all this animal life, all these things that we witness on this earth, it didn't just come through osmosis. It took something greater to create that. But he says here, verse 6, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that comes to Elohim must believe that he is, and that he is rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So that's the second point you must have. You must have diligence in your seeking of the Most High. Verse 7, by faith, Noah, being warned of Elohim, of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. And notice it says here, he was warned of Elohim of things not seen as yet. There had never been a flood. There had been a constant, perfect environment of weather on the earth up until this time. And for 120 years, Noah, while he was building that ark, was preaching to them that a flood is coming. And they didn't believe him because they never experienced it. But Noah dared to believe the Most High because he was warned of Elohim of things not seen as yet. It had never been seen before, but the Most High said it was going to come. And he was diligent in his work to build that ark, and he was prepared, and it saved him and his 3 sons and daughter-in-laws and his wife. 8 souls were spared because of his faith. Verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, he obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. I'm talking about having faith. Abraham, I need you to go somewhere. Where am I going? I'll tell you when you get there, okay? But I just need you to come out of your father's house, leave your people, and go to a land that I will tell you of. And brother left. He obeyed the Most High. Talk about having faith. Sometimes his instructions will not make sense to you. He may not give you the whole picture, but you still got to be willing to step out on faith and be obedient. And Abraham was that. Verse 9, by faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is Elohim. That verse 10 will preach all by itself. We have to learn to look for a city which has real foundations, whose builder and maker is Elohim. Not the city that's on this earth, because there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. All these things that we see, all these things that we know down here in this world are going to be done away with. And you got people right now that's putting more value in their material possessions than they are in the Most High. Things that they cannot take with them. The Pharaoh's tribe, they built the pyramids and they would bury themselves with all their wealth. But guess what? As soon as they died, somebody would go down there and steal their stuff. You can't take this stuff with you. The only thing that matters is what we do for the Most High. He is preparing a place that is going to be eternal in the heavens. And so he's saying here about these patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were looking for a city which had foundations, a city whose builder and maker was Elohim. We must seek those things that are above more than we seek those things that are on the earth. We must put a greater value and a greater emphasis on the things above than we do on the things of this earth. Through faith, also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Now keep in mind, this woman was barren her whole life. And she got the faith to bear a child when she was 90 years old. I mean, hear what I'm saying? Now that's serious. Now she couldn't have children when she was young, in her 20s and her 30s. But she dared to believe. She had the nerve to believe that the Most High could give her a child when she was 90. And the Bible says that she had Isaac, which means the child that made me laugh. She had that child because she dared to believe. Verse 12. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, because Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. So many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. In other words, I'm not making my home down here. I am a stranger down here. I'm a pilgrim down here. I'm just sojourning until I get to the final destination, that land that the Most High is preparing for me. And the promised land is not in the Middle East. The promised land is a land that He is preparing for us, a land flowing with milk and honey for real. I mean, what I'm saying. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they had came out, they might have had opportunities of return. You know, it's in other words, when you put your hand to the plow, if you're looking back, Yeshua said you are not fit for the kingdom. You got to always be looking forward to the thing that He's called you to, not the thing that He's called you from. But now they desire a better country, that is in heavenly. Wherefore Elohim is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, but He has prepared for them a city. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that received the promise offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac should thy seed be called. Abraham was willing to stand on that promise. Now, Isaac was a young man. Isaac, a young man with no wife, no children. The Most High wakes Abraham up and says, take your son, your only son Isaac, to this place I'm going to show you, and there I want you to kill him and offer him unto me. And Abraham considered the promise that the Most High said. He asked him to bless Ishmael. He said, oh, that Ishmael might live. He said, oh yeah, Ishmael going to live. He's going to be blessed. He's going to have 12 princes. But he said, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And so when he woke him up, the Bible says he got up early in the morning to obey the Most High, because he's like, oh my goodness, we're going to see a miracle. Because this is what he's thinking now. Isaac has not had a wife. He does not have any children. And the Most High told me to count the sand on the sea. He told me to count the stars in the sky, because he said, my seed is going to be like the stars in the heavens and the sand on the seashore. And it's all that's going to come through Isaac, who has no wife and kids. And yet he just asked me to take him up here and to sacrifice him. So I'm going to see a real miracle, because once I kill him, then I know automatically that the Most High got to bring him back from the dead, because he still got to have some kids. I mean, hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so this is the faith that Abraham had. He didn't go up there moping and complaining, saying that, no. He said he's going to give me some kids through Isaac. Now he's telling me to kill him. No, he said, man, I'm going to see a miracle. Why? Because I trust the Most High. I mean, hear what I'm saying? In verse 19, he had counted that Elohim was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence he also received him in a figure. In other words, he had already prepared in his mind, I'm going to see this, I'm going to see a miracle of resurrection, so this boy can get married and have some children. Verse 20, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandment concerning his bones, which you just seen that in the lesson today. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. It takes faith to not be afraid of the king's command. It could have cost them their lives by doing what they did. But they said, there's something special about this boy. We got to protect this child. All of the firstborn sons, all of the sons, in fact, were being killed, but they spared his life. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Elohim than to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season. Esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches. How many of you are doing that? Esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Now, to translate that, he has a greater respect for the blessings of the Most High than anything that he can receive in the world. Because anytime you see Egypt, Egypt is a type of the world. And Moses said, I'd much rather be in fellowship with the Most High, even if I got to give up being a potential Pharaoh. I'll give all that up so that I can be in fellowship with him and receive whatever it is he's got for me. How many hear what I'm saying? Read that verse 26 again. Esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. And we're finishing up with this. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, but he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the sea of reeds as by dry land, which the Egyptians are saying or trying to do. What happened to them? We just saw it. They drowned, right? So we're going to praise Yahweh because our Elohim is Elohim. And we notice this, he is a promise keeper. Because everything he said, he did. And everything he spoke, he brought it to pass. He told Abraham, your seed is going to be in this land that's not their own for 400 years. They're going to be mistreated, but I'm going to bring them out with a mighty hand. And I'm going to judge that nation that mistreated them. And the Most High did just that. All right. Any questions or comments? All right. All right. No questions, no questions, no questions. All right. We appreciate that, all of you that are here. All right. And what are we talking about now? The Elohim of Israel. Why? Because he is the one true Elohim. So we're going to get ready to pray out. We appreciate all of you. I wanted to get through that portion with them being freed from Egypt and the destruction of the children of Egypt and their armies, because I just thought it was important that we get to that point. Now, the rest of this is going to be, as we go forward in the book of Exodus, it's just going to be the development and the teaching of them to become a nation and what it means for them to be a set-aside people for the Most High. So we'll be covering that on next week. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get ready to pray out. All right. Hallelujah. Rana benediction. Yivreka Yahweh, Orish Beneka. Ya'er Yahweh Panavaleka Vekomeka. Yisa Yahweh Panavaleka Vesimlaka. Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show you his favor. And may Yahweh lift his countenance upon you and give you what? Shalom. Peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken, and nothing lacking. All right. We also want to remind all of you, get a chance to visit our YouTube channel. That's Dr. Russ E. Hoover. We will be dropping this video on Tuesday. Most I say the same. So you get a chance to hear this in its entirety on Tuesday. So get a chance to visit that. And I would love for you to do all those YouTube things, right? Get a chance to subscribe to our channel, give the videos a thumbs up, and hit that bell, which gives you notification of videos that are dropping. We actually dropped 2 videos this week. We did the one that was talking about the affirmations, and then we did the other that also concluded with part 3 of the book of Exodus. And so we would love for you to get a chance to do that. Also, feel free to share this information with others that you would like to hear the truth of the word. We're going to take this lessons all the way through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, book by book. So we want to give you a chance to see how Yeshua unfolds in all scripture. All right. All right. So with that said, this is Dr. Rusty Hoover. I'm getting ready to sign off. And I just want to remind you that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And also, I read the end of the book and I find out one thing. We win and the devil loses. And so that said, till next time, this is Dr. Rusty Hoover signing off. Shabbat Shalom, family. Be blessed.